Hi, good afternoon. Kate here this afternoon, just coming to you to chat a little bit about autism in schools. This week has been an interesting week in terms of just reflecting on how families are going. We're sort of more than halfway through term one, and just how they're travelling in terms of feeling supported and how their kids have transitioned into a new school year, and the kind of feedback that families have been getting from teachers or from their own children about how they're settling into school. As we know, autistic kids have, transitions can be kind of tricky, and I know lots of families sometimes try to request that they have the same teacher for a couple of years in a row because it really helps them to establish that relationship. So if they don't have that, then it can just take that little while to get to know the teacher, to get to and feel kind of comfortable. So just thinking, and reflecting and talking with families about the instances where that's going really, really well, making lots of accommodations, checking in with them, families that have had their parent support group meetings done, which is a group of professionals which usually involves the class teacher, maybe the wellbeing or the special education or whatever that role is called at the kids' school, maybe a member of the leadership team and the parents. And in that meeting, sit and discuss all the areas that the student or the child may need support in, and make some plans around that, make some goals around that. Not just academic areas, but social areas as well, if there's supports that need to be put in place there. So those people that have those support group meetings and have what is called an individual education plan or an IEP or individual plan of some sort. The acronyms vary from school to school and system to system, Catholic or government schools or independent schools. But what that plan does is it allows there to be accountability, there allows to be a surety for families and for teachers that they're going to come back to those plans that are made. Everyone gets a copy of those and come back term after term to see how that's tracking, see whatever the changes need to be made. Now, mainly what happens, in my experience, what I've seen is that families who have some sort of funding criteria that has been met, then they will, definitely be offered those meetings, those once a term kind of meetings. So these are not just your get to know you meetings or parent teacher meetings that other students are usually, scheduled throughout the year. These are particular targeted meetings, so they take a bit longer to do. And like I said, these plans are quite detailed. So if your child is under some sort of funding for their autism or another disability at all, they will usually get offered those, and the school will have a timeline within which they want to have them done for the year or for the term, especially the first term. And so sometimes when I talk to families and I just ask about them, like how they're going, or have you got one, or do you have a plan developed? And if their child's not funded, then they often go, well, no, we don't have one, or I don't know what you're talking about, is sometimes the answer too. Parents don't know about what these are. Why would they? And unless someone explicitly tells them, and so they don't have them done. So what I suggest, I suppose, if I'm involved and we're talking about, any challenges that are happening at school, I'm always thinking about the supports that are happening around the student and around the child. And school is if they're attending a school, it's a massive part of their day, it's a massive part of their world, and really, really important that it's going as good as it can be, and certainly for parents, to have good relationships with a school and with a school teacher or with the principal and the leaderships there is really, really important to feel supported as a parent as well. So sometimes if they say, no, I haven't been offered one, or I don't know what that is, I don't think I'm able to, I'll encourage them to inquire, because from what I've understood is that you don't have to have funding under the Students with Disabilities and Impairments, or whatever the funding kind of allocation is called at your school, to request one of these. There is legislation that sort of says in what circumstances they are mandated kind of thing, and when they're funded under a specific funding body, they are supposed to happen, and when they're strongly recommended. And certainly the position statement from AMAZE, which is Victoria's peak body, it suggests that, you know, children with autism often have diverse learning needs, and that it's strongly recommended that all autistic kids have some sort of individual education plan. Now, that's not the case in my experience, and you know, in some families they might go, we actually don't need one, it's all going swimmingly, and that's fine. These are the instances, I suppose, when, you know, extra support is needed, and having that support group meeting means there's a space where parents can really air their concerns. There's a space where that gets documented and it gets tracked, you know, from term to term, so that change can be looked at, it can be tweaked, and you really feel like there's a good, I suppose, accountability both ways, that your child's got the support that they need going forwards. So I'm going to put the link into the bottom of this video if people are interested about that at all, about, you know, how and, you know, where's the legislation to say that we can have one of these if it hasn't been offered, or if you've been told that no, it's not needed or not required, but you might feel a little differently about that. So I'll do that. But yeah, it's just interesting, I suppose, to for me to keep abreast of the latest information and latest recommendations that are coming through, because I think I did a post a few months ago when it was sort of released that there's been an inquiry from the government, an inquiry through AMAZE, and there's lots of recommendations that have been made about how to improve the Students with Disabilities Program, which will be undergoing a review over the next 4 years. So that will really change how funding is allocated, and how they assess how it will be allocated. So that will be a new change. But there's also been 10 sort of recommendations that have come out from AMAZE, stating about how we can improve experiences for students in Victorian government schools in particular. And, you know, that involves a whole range of things, but it certainly is about, you know, better education from, you know, the teachers to understand autism. It's certainly about improving their access to supports when they need it. It's understanding their sensory needs within their days at the school, and a whole lot of other things. So, and whilst, you know, maybe all of those recommendations may not get, you know, put into schools, there's certainly that push is that we need to do better by our autistic kids at school. The statistics aren't great in terms of, you know, high school completion for these kids, and we certainly know that we need to be doing better. So I kind of think about what's something that I can do in my small space where I'm, you know, helping families and advocating for them to ask for the supports that they think their child needs, and certainly, you know, I think that's partly what my role is, to support families and to support schools as well if they you know, need information or need understanding about how they can make those positive changes. Then, you know, that's something that I'm, you know, happy to, you know, help with if I can. So just be thinking, I suppose, about how things are tracking. Is there, you know, some improvement in the relationship, or is there some improvement in the supports that can be set up for your child? And it is hard sometimes having those conversations and asking, but I strongly encourage you to do so, because you never know if you don't ask. So being brave and saying, you know, I'd really like this, or what about this, and start some conversations and some dialogue. So, and then, you know, if you don't get the response that you need, then go and think about, well, what other supports can I put in place? Do I need an advocate or things like that? So I know that in the past, if families have needed an advocate, the Association for Children with a Disability are certainly one that have experience at supporting families. If there's, you know, situations where schools and families can't come to an agreement, and obviously it's ideal that there's really good relationships and good communications, and I think in most instances, schools really want to do the right thing and the best thing by their students. But sometimes, families feel like they need a bit of extra voice. It can be very overwhelming talking to professionals sometimes, and they can feel that they don't either have the expertise or they're not listened to, or whatever that experience might be. So sometimes it helps having external people just to give you that confidence and to give you that knowledge about, well, what are my rights and what are my child's rights, and how can I make sure that I'm doing the best by them and having them in that school environment. So certainly, think about those things if that's something that you're looking for as well. I did some posts earlier. I have had some really cool new resources, so I might next Friday I might show you through them as well. So it's always fun finding new things and new ways to explore emotions and get conversations and things going now that we're back in the practice and we're using good hygiene, but we can get some hands-on sort of activities sort of happening again. So maybe catch me next Friday afternoon when I do that one. But until then, I hope you have a really lovely weekend, and thanks for watching if you've joined me live, and if you've joined me on the replay, thanks again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.